Tonight, the deadly shooting at the courthouse. A gunman wearing tactical gear firing several shots into a Dallas federal courthouse. Authorities returned fire with deadly force. Witnesses describing the scene as it was firing. Trapped inside the massive explosion destroying a home, an off-duty police officer sprinting to the scene. Among those who helped pull a survivor from the debris. Investigators before the cameras just moments ago. Buildings tonight bracing for major rain and flooding from Colorado all the way east to the coast. From D.C. up through Philly. A week of dangerous rain ahead for the East Coast, and Ginger times it all out. The outrage, officers accused of excessive force, guns drawn after a child had allegedly stolen a doll. Tonight, what the police chief is now saying, the family says it is not enough. The new threat from Iran tonight, what they say they'll do within 10 days. And the Trump administration pointing to new images tonight, what they say they prove. Martha Raddatz is here live. The third shark attack off the East Coast tonight, an 8-year-old boy. The extreme turbulence, the flight attendant violently thrown, passengers injured. And celebrating Gloria Vanderbilt. She came from a famous family, but she was determined to define herself. And that she did. From Vanderbilt jeans to her poetry, her paintings, her son, Anderson Cooper, remembering her.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. It's great to start another week with all of you at home, and we begin tonight with the deadly shootout unfolding in broad daylight outside a federal courthouse in Dallas. A masked gunman armed with a rifle firing into the building. Heavily armed police swarming the scene today, taking him down in the parking lot. The gunman in tactical gear, wearing body armor. Federal authorities said he had more than 5 30-round magazines on him. Witnesses in windows watching the harrowing scene unfold. And late today, police now revealing new details about the suspect. ABC's Marcus Moore is in Dallas, leading us off.
Shots fired, shots fired. We got SWAT coming through.
Tonight, a masked gunman in tactical gear firing on a Dallas federal courthouse just before 9 o'clock this morning. One person seen just to the right of the suspect, taking cover just feet away.
We were all in a room together in a meeting when we heard the shots.
Maybe 10, 15 shots, all of this rapid. People just started running out of the building.
A photographer with the Dallas Morning News capturing this chilling image of the gunman from just feet away. The suspect, now identified as 22-year-old Brian Isaac Clyde, runs to a parking lot across the street, exchanging gunfire with federal authorities. He is shot and killed. Authorities discovering his car nearby. The bomb squad, out of precaution, conducting a controlled explosion. We were on the scene just a block away and could hear the sound. And you just heard them detonating an object where the suspect vehicle was found here downtown. Multiple FBI agents raiding a Fort Worth apartment where neighbors told our Dallas station WFAA the suspect had been living. And tonight, the U.S. Army telling ABC News Private First Class Clyde served as an infantryman from August 2015 to February 2017. Authorities saying tonight there is no indication of other shooters or threats to the community.
But for the actions of the Federal Protective Service officers, this likely would have been a very deadly incident.
And Marcus Moore with us live tonight from Dallas. And Marcus, just incredible, really, that no one was seriously hurt in this. And authorities tonight are telling you they are working to determine a motive.
David, authorities tell me they have more than 200 FBI agents and partners fanned out across the state as they try to connect the dots here. And they are tracing the suspect's weapon, as well as interviewing those who knew him, trying to figure out a motive for this shooting. David?
Marcus Moore leading us off tonight. Marcus, thank you. We are also following breaking news just as we came on the air tonight. Word the U.S. is sending 1,000 additional troops to the Middle East amid these rising tensions with Iran. And tonight, the new threat from Iran. That country saying within 10 days it will exceed the limit of its uranium stockpile, violating the nuclear deal. That deal the U.S. had already pulled out of. And tonight, the Pentagon now claiming it has new evidence proving Iran was behind the attacks on 2 oil tankers. U.S. Central Command releasing new images of an Iranian Revolutionary Guard patrol boat near one of the tankers. So what does this all mean as the U.S. now sends these troops? ABC's Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz tonight with late reporting.
It is a threat that could unquestionably bring Iran and the U.S. closer to confrontation. Iran saying in 10 days it will violate the joint 2015 nuclear deal by exceeding the limits on nuclear fuel unless Europeans provide relief from crippling sanctions. But the U.S., which withdrew from the deal last year, fired back, calling Iran's threat nuclear blackmail, saying President Trump has made it clear that he will never allow Iran to develop nuclear weapons. Although the additional 1,000 forces the U.S. is sending are said to be for defensive purposes, largely reconnaissance and surveillance. And today, more images now declassified from that tanker attack in the Gulf of Oman, which officials say shows close up the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps removing an unexploded mine from one of the tankers. But thus far, no evidence has been released publicly of the Iranians placing the mines on the ships. The military also saying the Iranians attempted to shoot down a U.S. drone that was tracking one of the tankers, but the Iranian surface-to-air missile, they say, missed by nearly a mile.
Both the U.S. and Iran are thumping their chest. They're trying to show that they're tough enough if it comes to blows that they can take it. But neither wants to step across the line and actually have it come to a military conflict.
Another week of this. Martha with us again live tonight. And Martha, you reported there on these additional U.S. troops being sent. And tonight the Europeans saying that they need more evidence to convince them the Iranians were behind all this.
They do, David. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has said the evidence against Iran in the attacks is unmistakable, but the European Union wants further investigation, David.
Martha Raddatz with us live tonight. Martha, thank you. And back here at home tonight in the horrific scene today, a massive explosion destroying a home in Ridgefield, New Jersey. The images coming in all day. Take a look. The blast leveling the home. An off-duty police officer among those helping to pull a victim from under the rubble. Neighbors say the explosion knocked them off their feet. ABC's Eva Pilgrim is at the scene for us.
Tonight, a home obliterated.
It was like a boom, like a bomb. I mean, literally like a bomb.
A suspected gas explosion leveling a Ridgefield, New Jersey house. Its roof crashing to the ground.
Took me off my feet, and I went to look over my fence, and there was no house.
The explosion blowing out windows, throwing debris hundreds of feet away.
House explosion with a party trapped. Got a party trapped inside.
An off-duty police officer a block away ran to the house, helping dig one person from the rear of the collapsed home. That person rushed to the hospital tonight in stable condition.
As the party was trying to exit on his own, they assisted moving debris and were able to extricate him out of the building.
There was a gas leak that had to be shut off so firefighters could put out the flames. Firefighters sawing through debris, others on ladders, spraying water on hot spots. The rising smoke could be seen for miles.
Just incredible pictures. Eva with us live from the scene of the explosion. And Eva, officials investigating the cause and say crews from 6 different towns worked to put out the fire.
Well, David, those firefighters are still here tonight, keeping watch over any lingering hot spots. As for the investigation, authorities say they aren't sure if the gas leak caused the explosion or was the result of it. Still a lot of questions tonight. David.
Eva Pilgrim live in New Jersey. Eva, thank you. Next tonight, millions bracing for major rain and flooding this week from Colorado all the way to the East Coast, from D.C. up through Philly in the next 24 hours. At least 20 reported tornadoes across 8 states, and EF2 destroying a church in Bentonville, Indiana. Strong winds tearing apart a roof in Fort Worth, and this system stretching all the way into the Northeast through the end of the week. And the amount of rain we're talking about is serious. So let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z, who is timing this whole thing out for us. Hey, Ginger.
Hey, David, tonight a severe thunderstorm watch just to our south has parts of Maryland reporting nearly golf ball-sized hail. That's just one of the threats. If you're anywhere from Philadelphia to Atlantic City, down to Dover and Baltimore, even D.C., watch tonight for damaging wind. Now, that's the severe weather part of it, but a lot of this is forming along the stationary front. Plenty of tropical moisture fueling a couple of lows that will act like little impulses over the next couple of days. What that means to you from Kansas through Missouri, southern Ohio, West Virginia, all the way through New Jersey is that you'll have rain, and some places a lot of it. Overall 1 to 3, but some spots up to 4 inches, David.
Ginger Z with us tonight. Ginger, thank you. And now to growing outrage over police accused of excessive force in Phoenix tonight. Officers with guns drawn on a family, including a pregnant mother and their daughter, who took a doll from a store. The mayor and police chief apologizing now. The family saying it's not enough. Here's ABC's Adrian Banker with the images that drew outrage.
The couple held at gunpoint by Phoenix police in this now viral video tonight demand the officers be fired.
It's just basically a slap in the face. Everyone knows they are not fit to be policing.
Drayvon Ames is seen cuffed, then kicked by police responding to a report of shoplifting.
When I tell you do something, do it. I am. When I tell you to put your
His fiancée, who is 6 months pregnant, pleads with police.
Put the child down.
After their 4-year-old daughter walked out of a store with a doll.
My 1-year-old was injured from the officer, you can see it in the video, grabbing her arm, with force.
Police claim the couple was shoplifting, refused commands, and that officers feared they were armed. Tonight, the family says apologies from the mayor and police chief aren't enough.
I apologize to the family. I apologize to the community. But at the end of the day, there's more to the story.
David, the store behind us not pressing any charges. Those officers are on desk duty pending an internal investigation. The family says they've never received a direct call of apology and says they'll sue the city for $10 million. David?
Adrian Banker reporting in. Adrian, thank you. To the White House tonight, President Trump on the eve of officially kicking off his re-election campaign. The president now says he's going to take another shot at health care, telling George he will roll out a, quote, phenomenal new plan within the next 2 months. Many Republicans tonight signaling they wanted to steer clear of this issue that hurt them so much in last year's midterms. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega tonight.
Just as he is about to officially launch his re-election campaign, President Trump now says he has a plan for the issue most important to American voters, health care.
We're going to produce phenomenal health care, and we already have the concept of the plan, and it'll be much better health care. What the plan is? Yeah, well, we'll be announcing that in about 2 months, maybe less.
But White House sources tell ABC News there is no legislative plan in the works. Instead, the administration is drafting a set of health care principles. Ever since Republicans tried and failed to repeal and replace in 2017, party leaders have been reluctant to take on health care as a campaign issue in the race for 2020. Today, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said he's anxious to hear more.
We're looking forward to seeing what he's going to recommend.
Still, the president insisting.
We're going to have a great health care plan.
It was all part of that exclusive interview with George Stephanopoulos. And tonight, this moment in the Oval Office getting attention. Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney coughing as the president discussed his own personal finances. President Trump not happy.
At some point, I hope they get it because it's a fantastic financial statement. It's a fantastic financial statement. And let's do that over. He's coughing in the middle of my answer.
Yeah, okay.
I don't like that, you know?
When your chief of staff.
If you're going to cough, please leave the room.
Get a shot up, and I'll come over here.
You just can't.
Just to change the shot? Okay. Sorry.
Cecilia Vega with us live tonight from the White House. And Cecilia, President Trump also making news from that interview when it came to the poll numbers. Poll numbers he said were untrue. He was not happy with. I know he announces his campaign tomorrow, but there's news tonight involving some of those pollsters behind those numbers.
Yeah, exactly, David. This came after these internal polls from the president's re-election campaign leaked. They showed him back in March trailing behind Joe Biden in some key battleground states. As you just said in that interview there with George, the president denied that these polls even existed. But David, we have learned that tonight the re-election campaign has indeed cut ties with some of these pollsters.
Cecilia Vega with us on a Monday night. Thank you, Cecilia. Next tonight, the new shark attack in North Carolina, the state's third this month alone. The latest victim, an 8-year-old boy bitten on the leg while swimming right off the coast. Why do there seem to be more attacks? What authorities are now saying tonight. And here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
Tonight, yet another shark attack off the coast of North Carolina, the third in just 2 weeks.
Hi, I'm on Bald Head Island, and someone got bit by a shark.
This time, an 8-year-old boy near Bald Head Island, a shark biting his leg, leaving puncture wounds. But doctors believe he'll make a full recovery. It was just last week when 19-year-old surfer Austin Reed was bitten at nearby Ocean Isle Beach. And 2 weeks ago, 17-year-old Paige Winter was attacked by a shark near Atlantic Beach, losing a leg above the knee and some of her fingers. This afternoon, Winter spoke exclusively with Good Morning America's Robin Roberts.
You never lost consciousness. What kind of pain were you in, Paige?
My body went into shock, so I couldn't really feel anything. I just knew it was bad.
And David, incredibly, while we usually see about 19 shark attacks every year here in the U.S., we've already hit that number so far this year. Some experts say warmer waters are bringing sharks closer to shore, and more people are flocking to the coast. David.
All right, Gio Benitez with us as well. Thank you, Gio. And next tonight here, the Supreme Court making news tonight, not just for today's rulings, but how the justices sided today. The court upholding an exception to double jeopardy in this country, meaning you can be charged on both the federal level and the state level. Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Neil Gorsuch, the lone dissenters. In another case, Justice Clarence Thomas joining Ginsburg and Gorsuch on a 5-4 ruling rejecting Virginia Republicans' appeal over alleged racial gerrymandering. And the justice is handing a temporary victory tonight to the over religious beliefs. A lower court will now re-examine that case. We're going to turn next tonight to the terrifying scene inside a passenger plane. Turbulence violently rocking the jet, throwing a flight attendant and her drink cart right into the aisle. Several passengers were injured, and ABC's David Curley covers aviation.
Tonight, one of the most extreme cases of turbulence caught on camera. A flight attendant picking up empty beverage cups slammed to the ceiling of the 737. The suddenness and strength of the turbulence highlighted by how much is thrown to that ceiling, including the beverage cart, as the jet drops significantly. The cart crashing onto passengers, some scalded by hot water, according to those on the Bulgarian jetliner from Kosovo to Switzerland. 10 passengers transported to the hospital. Even though the airline said the turbulence was expected, the flight attendant was up collecting glasses anyway. There are about 27 significant turbulence events in the U.S. each year, with 14 serious injuries and 70 minor on average.
In this case, despite being slammed to the ceiling, the airline says the flight attendant was uninjured.
David Curley tonight. David, thank you. To the index in a shooting at the Toronto Raptors victory parade. Videos showing fans running in panic. Toronto police reporting 4 victims with non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. At least 3 suspects are in custody tonight, and a pair of firearms have been recovered. Overcrowding was a concern all day, with an estimated 1.5 million fans packing downtown Toronto. The gate scare for passengers aboard a Southwest flight in Pittsburgh, the plane set to depart for Denver, was struck by a vehicle driven by a Southwest ramp agent. There were 180 people on board, no injuries. The driver was taken to the hospital. That plane did not fly. A recall tonight involving pasta sauce. Mizcot America, makers of Ragu brand pasta sauce, recalling the products over concerns they may contain plastic fragments. 45-ounce and 66-ounce jars of chunky tomato, garlic, and onion, and 66-ounce jars of old world-style traditional and meat sauces are all affected. We have much more on our website for you. Funny tonight here, she was born into a famous family, but she was determined to define every chapter of her life herself. And she did. Celebrating Gloria Vanderbilt. Gloria Vanderbilt was born into the famous Vanderbilt family, the great-great-granddaughter of railroad and shipping tycoon Commodore Cornelius Vanderbilt. She lost her father when she was just a baby, and at the tender age of 10, she was the subject of a bitter child custody battle between her mother and her aunt. The newspapers covered every step of the battle. She was married 4 times. She had 4 children. She would act as a young woman, and over the course of her life, she would write and paint, too. ABC News at the opening of her art show in 1969 in New York City.
Well, how do you feel personally having your work here?
Oh, I'm delighted. I love to work, and I work hard and long, and this is going to keep me going, and I like that, so I'm delighted with it. Gloria, you're terrific.
But many will remember when she turned the family name into a fortune. Her eye, her jeans.
This is Gloria Vanderbilt, the woman who invented designer jeans and almost overnight changed the way America dresses.
They were everywhere.
Introducing canvas jeans that were built for your figure, Vanderbilt for your figure.
But Gloria Vanderbilt would navigate her share of loss, too. In 1988, she lost a son, Carter, to suicide, and she wrote about it. He was just 23. But she would remain an optimist, once saying, "Be kind to everyone you meet, for everyone is fighting a great battle. We all are, everyone." And it was her devoted son, Anderson Cooper, who announced her passing today. You could hear it in his voice.
The last few weeks, every time I kissed her goodbye, I'd say, "I love you, Mom." She would look at me and say, "I love you too." And in the end, what greater gift can a mother give to her son?
Gloria Vanderbilt was 95.
What an extraordinary life. What an extraordinary mom. And what an incredible woman.